We're about to join another amazing talk, but just before we do, I want to say a huge thank you to our sponsors, speakers, and you, our wonderful audience, for making this event possible. With expert presentations and inspirational discussions on the agenda, you are in for a real treat today. Please ensure you are sharing your feedback and asking all questions in the comment section of the video, as our speakers will be answering them throughout their session. After the event, a great place to continue the conversation is in the Developer Marketing Alliance Slack community, where you will be able to connect with peers, get access to fresh content, and discover new opportunities. I'll be posting the sign-up link regularly in the comments, so if you're not already involved, keep your eyes peeled and join the discussion. And remember, you can gain on-demand access to all of our exclusive event footage with the DMA Pro membership. So with all that in mind, let's dive back in.
Good morning, good day, and good evening. And thank you to the Developer Marketing Alliance and the event sponsors for the opportunity to share our experiences, insights, and tips with our fellow developer marketers. And looking at the agenda, y'all are going to hear from and learn from an extraordinary set of leaders and practitioners. So in this session, I'm going to do something a bit different and share with you how I've built my practice of developer event programs through my experience as a runner. Quick introduction for those I haven't had the chance to meet yet. My name is Katie Miller, my pronouns are she, her, and I'm currently Director of Developer Marketing at Slack. Well, my career has had many interesting twists and turns, from dental school admissions and life coaching to cookbook editing and agency training programs, and now the last decade plus in developer programs. There's been a constant through line, which is building programs and experiences that connect people to the information they need to make good decisions and be successful. And tying it back to this session, it was reflecting on that through line that helped me see that the mental models and frameworks that were driving my work weren't coming from textbooks, a video, or a marketing course. While out running, I often found myself saying things like, "It's like that scene in Monty Python," or "This is like when races don't have enough bathrooms," or "Oh, that sounds like making whiskey," or "It's just like HGTV shows," or "I'm feeling very Ned Stark at the moment." In all these comments, I ultimately found that models I was using to drive forward strategy, prioritization, and program execution were coming from literature, movies, games, sports, and the world around me. Or what I like to think of as DIY developer marketing. And what does that mean? Well, similar to how there are loads of life hacks espoused through online lists to DIY scouring your pan or unclogging your drain, there are DIY hacks to being a successful developer marketer. And for today's session in particular, we're going to focus on developer marketing lessons learned from many years and many, many miles of running. And here's an overview of today's race route. We're going to start by knowing your audience and how to deliver, being 2 steps ahead of everything, creating inclusive experiences, refocusing and resetting in the face of setbacks, and really seeing how there's such a parallel between event managers and endurance athletes. And now we're off. Lesson number 1, what can we learn from road races and bathrooms about the developer audience? Simple. We need to know our audience, listen to them, hear what they need, and deliver. A race that shows this lesson clearly is the Nike Women's Marathon and Half Marathon, which ran in San Francisco from 2004 to 2015. What made this race unique is that it catered to what it thought attendees wanted out of a sporting event. Perks like custom swag, massage stops along the course, Ghirardelli chocolate, and a Tiffany necklace instead of a medal, handed out by local firefighters in tuxedos. And while some runners appreciated the perks, I still see many runners proudly wearing these necklaces. The one thing the race forgot was, what do runners, regardless of gender, age, speed, ability, want at a race? Results. Yep, whether we run 100 meters, a mile, or a marathon, we want to know how we did. And so despite many lovely aspects of the event, it was impossible to find the results after the race. Let's parlay this into a developer marketing program. A few years back, Google I/O, Google's marquee developer event, moved from a convention center to an outdoor amphitheater. Like the Nike Women's Marathon, the intentions were good, so good. Create a unique experience that is festive, creative, and engaging, has more space for more attendees, all the while building community knowledge and inspiration. Did it achieve these aspirations? In so many ways, yes. And there were also lessons learned about the importance of keeping the attendee experience front and center, from logistics to how attendees engage in content and with each other, to the recognition that, yep, people are going to do work and use devices on site. Now, focusing on logistics and operations, whether it be enough outlets, enough seating or sessions, or enough bathrooms, is critical. But it doesn't mean we cannot surprise, delight, and inspire our developer audience. It's simply making sure we remember to do both. Bring playfulness, authenticity, and wow moments that reflect a deep understanding of developer drivers, and be sure to have enough outlets and bathrooms. In sum, takeaway number one is it's not just the who and the what of events, but the how, and also having enough bathrooms. On to lesson number 2, weather, or be 2 steps ahead of anything. Back in 2007, the Chicago Marathon, a race run annually in October, sometimes in nearly winter-like conditions, encountered the notorious triple H of weather: hazy, hot, and humid. Not optimal for running. And while the forecast was known in advance, no adjustments or precautions were taken, resulting in pretty dire conditions, and the race ultimately being stopped after 4 hours. Fast forward 12 years, in Boston, another marathon run annually during precarious seasonal weather, was staring down torrential rain in the forecast. Learning lessons from past races, it made the difficult decision to make a last-minute change to the start time, with the hope that more runners could avoid the worst of the weather. While it was a logistical and communications challenge, by planning ahead and being prepared for all scenarios, it was able to make the adjustments necessary. How does this apply to lessons for developer events? The first year that Google I/O moved to an outdoor amphitheater, they invested tremendously in creating an immersive festival-like atmosphere. But underestimating the combination of high demand to attend specific sessions and how hot pavement gets when the sun is out, it resulted in unfortunately uncomfortable conditions. From this lesson, we were far better prepared in future years, making adjustments to the physical space design, session queuing, and supplies that allowed us to provide a more comfortable experience and be better equipped to manage weather conditions on site. This lesson can easily parlay into considerations around everything from swag orders and custom issues, how to adjust if speakers drop out or staff do not show up, or what happens if the internet goes down. In sum, have contingency plans. The third lesson is about the importance of having space for everyone. One of the things that's always drawn me to the sport of running is that it aspires to be for everyone, no matter your speed or ability. And yet running, like every sport, and if we're being direct, most industries, is working through challenges of how to be diverse and inclusive in their activities and opportunities. Running hasn't always gotten it right, from how brands may or may not have invested in mothers, the safety runners of color do not feel or do feel while running, and how to welcome and create space for non-binary participants in an activity that, well, has historically been binary in its competitive divisions. And while it's still not perfect, through activism and a commitment to the hard work, we're seeing slow but steady progress in the sport achieving the aspirations of being the great equalizer. From new racing categories to equal prize money to support for nursing mothers at events. What is the inspiration I take from running and parlay into events? Never stop aspiring to achieve the goals of diversity and inclusivity and be committed to the hard work. For the events my team and I have led, this has included factoring access and accessibility into planning, from time zones for virtual events to, as you can see in this picture, the design and builds of physical events, and inclusion of spaces for nursing and pumping and prayer and meditation. Having diverse voices represented on stage. What I've seen work is having an expansive channel for calls for paper, accompanied by a representative panel selecting the content, and programs and initiatives to increase confidence, preparedness, and opportunities to participate. While the latter may not have immediate dividends, it's investing in the pool, the network of experienced, talented, and capable experts. And then third, allowing folks to identify themselves. This goes beyond stickers to the way name forms and identifying categories are drafted for registration. The list can go on. Considerations about food and beverage and activity choices, having codes of conduct well displayed with clear channels to report issues, being thoughtful about locations based on travel challenges and the geography's policies towards marginalized groups, and content review for inclusive language and imagery. To summarize, whether in sport or in developer spaces, we're still learning, we're still improving, and there's still work to do. And while we may make mistakes, even when well-intentioned, it's important to learn fast, do better next time, and keep working. We've covered some big ground so far. Understanding your audience and delivering to expectations, making sure to have contingency plans for anything that may go awry, and how to approach the work of creating inclusive spaces. All parallels from my running experiences that I've been able to bring to my developer event experience. But a lot of these examples still pull from real life in-person events. And well, in the last few years have taught us anything, it's that the best made plans can be ripped from under us in challenging times. So how did running prepare my team and I to manage events through a pandemic? Let's be real, it was hard, and there's no way to minimize or trivialize what we experienced. But what helped some was having experienced the true highs and lows that come from marathon racing. Let's revisit that 2007 Chicago Marathon. I was on that starting line in hazy, hot, and humid conditions, and I was not at the finish. I made it about 8 miles before calling it. It was heartbreaking to have set high goals, trained for so long, and not achieve them, and then end up with an injury to boot. I was out of running commission on and off for a good year. As silly as it may sound, running is a central part of my life, my identity, my fitness outlet, my competitive outlet, my social outlet. And I mourned the loss, and I felt directionless and needed to find new ways to channel my energy and feel connected to my running peers. It took time, but in the end, taught me lessons in patience, perseverance, flexibility, and creativity. So then, when the world shut down in 2020 and everything was canceled, those lessons from the marathon setbacks did come in handy. How to create space to grieve loss, but to also use that space to reflect, reimagine, and reprioritize the role running would play in my life during the pandemic. And while difficult, we found ways to be fit, be together, and be competitive. And similarly, carried this through to our developer events work. Once we wound down our investment in physical activities, we observed what was possible in the virtual space, from offering a global around-the-clock event, allowing inclusion of attendees who may not have been able to attend our in-person events, to recognizing that content and experiences could be a balance of time-bound and timeless, enabling people to engage with us when it was right for them. And while the world is starting to come back in real life, an event like this virtual summit right here shows that what we learned and how we connected by, let's be real, being challenged to solve problems in really hard times has left us with innovation in virtual event technology, in content delivery, and in community building and networking. And if we're really being real, we've all had programs and planning cycles that have taken different pivots, turns, and directions. Understanding the fickleness of the marathon has been a valuable lesson throughout the ebbs and flows of professional endeavors, not just events. In sum, when the marathon or work breaks your heart, take time to grieve, reflect, reset, and be resilient. Whew, are you tired? I am. Did we pace ourselves well? It's great for this final lesson, which is the parallel of event managers as endurance athletes and the importance of preparing, acting, and reflecting like one. Events take considerable energy. Just like in preparing for a race, make sure to incorporate in self-care as part of your pre, mid, and post-event execution. If things aren't going quite well on the race course or on site, be like Elsa and let it go. Move on. And make sure you take time for reflection and learning. Just as I have throughout my running journey and allowed that reflection and learning to improve my sport, so too have I allowed that reflection and learning to inform my professional endeavors as well. Alrighty, we made it to the finish line. Here's our race recap. What have we learned today? The first is the importance of keeping front and center the audience. Know your audience, know your goals, and deliver on the experience. The second is, no matter how hard we prepare, 99 times, that 100th thing might be the thing that goes wrong. So anticipate that things will go wrong and be 2 steps ahead. The third is, we want to aspire to create space for everyone within our developer programs and communities. So do the important work to make for diverse and inclusive experiences. The fourth is, we're going to experience trying times, whether it be on the course, at the event. Things may not go as planned. So be resilient and be creative through the challenges. And finally, we are all endurance athletes, so pace, fuel, recover, and reflect. I do want to provide you with one bonus lap to this. We can call it our victory lap here. We've made it to the finish line. And as we started this race, I shared this novel idea of DIY developer marketing, and then walked through one particular example for me, running, that has offered a framework for doing professional work. And perhaps you're thinking, I am not a runner. This model does not quite work for me. What should I take away from this? It's an excellent question. What I would encourage everyone to do is start by thinking about what you're interested in, what you're passionate about, what you've studied and learned over the years. Is it another sport, art, history, fiction, pop culture, movies? These lessons are all around us. Just this week, a colleague used a beautiful visual of describing product development as a puzzle we're assembling. It may look incomplete, but we know it'll all come together to make a beautiful whole. And by keeping an open mind, saying yes and recognizing patterns, perhaps you can find the frameworks, mental models, and inspiration to guide your developer marketing practice. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you again to the Developer Marketing Alliance and sponsors, and I look forward to answering your questions. Thank you.